shining just like sin.
In 1913, Henry E. Baker uncovered more than 1,200 patents tied to African American inventors. That number should have stood as proof that black genius helped build modern America. But the bitter truth is that many of those great inventions were taken, registered under someone else's name, turned into corporate profit, while the people who created them were pushed out of the paperwork and erased from historical memory. So how many things around us were first shaped by black brilliance, then stolen, patented, or claimed by someone else? This is Hidden Black Chronicles, and together we bring buried stories back into the light. Today, we expose 10 African American inventions that America stole and shamelessly patented as its own. Number 1. Carbon filament. On January 17, 1882, a patent connected to the carbon filament used in electric lamps was granted in the United States. On that document appeared the name Lewis Howard Latimer, a black man, the son of parents who had escaped slavery. But more than a century later, if you ask most people who brought the light bulb into American history, the name they remember first is almost always Edison. So why was a black man whose name stood on an invention record tied to the light that helped change human life pushed into the shadows of history? While Edison's name was lifted so high, it seemed as if he alone had illuminated the entire nation. The answer is not that Latimer was not great enough. The answer lies in how America chooses who becomes a legend and who gets reduced to a footnote. Lewis Howard Latimer was born in 1848 in Chelsea, Massachusetts, into a family where freedom was not a gift America gently handed down. His parents, George and Rebecca Latimer, had escaped slavery in Virginia.
Long before Lewis learned to read technical drawings, understand machinery, and enter the world of patents, his family already knew how cruel America could be when power rested in the hands of people who were legally allowed to call other human beings property. Between 1881 and 1882, Lewis Howard Latimer, together with Joseph V.
Nichols, developed a process for manufacturing carbon filaments for electric lamps, the thin piece inside the bulb that helped determine whether the light would burn steadily or die out too soon. In an incandescent lamp, the carbon filament is where electricity becomes light. If that filament was weak, unstable, or burned unevenly, the bulb would remain an expensive object for demonstrations, not a breakthrough capable of entering everyday human life. Latimer's improvement touched one of the most important problems of the electric age, making electric light more durable, more practical, and more useful to ordinary people. And yet the bitter truth is this: a black man made an important contribution to the development of electric light, but when that light became a symbol of American civilization, the name shining brightest in public memory was almost always Edison. For centuries, black people were not only forced into labor, they were also robbed of intellectual dignity. Slavery wanted society to believe that black people were born only to serve, not to read, write, create, or place their names on great inventions. In many places, enslaved people were forbidden from learning to read, because those in power feared that a person who could read would begin to understand what the law had stolen from them. But from the very world that once treated black people as property, Lewis Howard Latimer stepped into the U.S. patent system, placed his name on an improvement at the heart of the electric light bulb, and left behind a truth that could not be erased. The people America tried to degrade helped shape one of the greatest inventions in human life. Today, as museums, invention organizations, and historical records in America begin to call Lewis Howard Latimer's name again, that recognition is more than a delayed honor. It is a sign that the story of electric light was missing something important for far too long. They may not always say outright that history stole his credit, but the need to restore Latimer's place speaks for itself. Black genius was present at the heart of the electric light bulb, yet it was left for too long in Edison's shadow. A son of parents who escaped slavery entered the U.S. patent system, helped improve the carbon filament, and proved something history once tried to blur. African American ancestors did more than survive oppression. They invented it. They improved. They helped create technologies that changed human life. For the black community, Latimer is not a side name in Edison's light bulb story. He is a source of pride. Proof that black genius once helped light up America, even when America took far too long to look directly into that light. Have you ever heard another story about a forgotten black invention? An idea that once changed human life, but the name of the person behind it was pushed into the shadows. Share it below,
because the story you tell today might help bring a great mind out of the darkness of history. Number 2.
Steamboat propeller. Did you know that in 19th century American agriculture, steamboats were one of the most important machines keeping the South running? Before railroads and trucks became common, rivers like the Mississippi carried cotton, grain, and goods from plantations to the market. But shallow water, sandbars, and constantly shifting riverbeds could trap a boat and seriously disrupt trade.
That is why a propeller design that helped steamboats move better through shallow waters was not just a mechanical improvement. It was the kind of invention that could keep agricultural goods moving.
And that invention was tied to Benjamin Thornton Montgomery, a black man born in 1819, enslaved on the Mississippi plantation of Joseph Emory Davis, the brother of Jefferson Davis.
Montgomery was not born into a society that looked at him as an inventor. He lived under a system that looked at black people as property.
But the very man that system tried to reduce had the ability to study the river, understand machinery, read the movement of a boat's body through water, and develop a steamboat propeller design that helped vessels operate better in shallow conditions. But when that invention needed recognition, Benjamin Montgomery ran straight into one of the cruelest truths of slaveholding America. The law did not treat an enslaved person as someone with full ownership rights. Brian L. Fry's study, Invention of a Slave, points to that bitter contradiction.
If an enslaved person could not legally own property, and the enslaver was not the true inventor, then the invention born from a black mind became trapped inside the very legal cage slavery had created. America, at that time, did not only take black labor from the fields, workshops, and docks, it also took away the chance for black people to be recognized as creators.
Benjamin Montgomery could imagine a design that helped steamboats move better through shallow waters, helped agricultural goods travel more easily, and helped Southern commerce make more money.
But because he was enslaved, the law would not allow him to fully stand as the owner of his own invention. In other words, the system was willing to use his intelligence, but it was not willing to call him the owner of that intelligence. But if that system truly believed black people were inferior, why did it keep needing black hands, black experience, and black minds to keep the American economy running? Today,
as researchers and historical records in America begin to bring Benjamin Thornton Montgomery back into the story of inventions blocked by slavery, that recognition feels like a long overdue admission.
And that is why Montgomery stands as a source of pride for African Americans.
He is proof that our ancestors did more than survive under chains. They invented, they studied, they placed their intelligence inside the progress of human science. Slavery could try to lock his body on a plantation in Mississippi, but it could not make his mind small.
And that alone is enough reason for his name to be honored in history, not as a side note, but as a black inventor who proved that our people could still rise, even in the very place America tried to extinguish them.
Number 3. Cotton scraper. After the Mississippi River and those steamboats, this story pulls us into one of America's most painful symbols of wealth, the cotton field. Around the 19th century, cotton was called the white gold of the South. It made plantation owners rich, fed trade, and helped build the wealth America still stands on today. But behind every white bale of cotton were the hands of enslaved black people, forced down into the soil, backs turned into living tools, human beings made to create wealth for a country that refused to fully call them human. And on that bitter ground, Henry Blair rose with a sharp mind and the hard-earned knowledge of the cotton fields.
From that experience, he created an agricultural tool connected to cotton, a device that helped improve farming and supported the growth of American agriculture and trade. Blair was born around 1807, a free black farmer in Maryland. He did not come from a grand laboratory. He did not have a powerful factory or a wealthy company standing behind him. the newspapers of his time did not turn him into a national symbol.
He came from the land, from the daily reality of farming, from an America where people who looked like him had too often been treated as tools, as property, as living merchandise. In 1834, Blair received a patent for a corn planter. Then, in 1836, he received another patent for a device connected to cotton, often described as a cotton planter or cotton scraper. At first, that may sound like a few simple farm improvements. But when you place it inside the America of that time, Henry Blair's story forces us to look at this farmer differently.
Cotton was tied directly to the slave economy, where millions of black people were forced to work the fields so others could grow rich. And yet, inside that same world, a free black farmer stood with patents for agricultural inventions of his own, while white society tried to teach that black people were born only to labor with their hands. Henry Blair proved something else entirely. Black people did not just work the land. They understood the land. They improved the tools. They studied production. They left marks of intelligence inside the very system that tried to lower them. But the bitter part is this. America needed black people to plant cotton, pick cotton, and build wealth from cotton. Yet when it came to agricultural intelligence, when it came to improvements that made production more efficient, history often pushed black names to the edge.
Even in some records from that time, Blair was identified as a colored man, as if even when he was being recognized as an inventor, society still had to stamp his race onto his name before allowing him into the official record. Today, when historical and invention organizations in America speak of Henry Blair as one of the first African Americans to receive a patent, that recognition brings pride, but it also carries pain. Because the story of American agriculture was told for far too long without honoring the black minds that truly helped shape it. For African Americans, Henry Blair is a source of ancestral pride, proof that even on land covered with suffering, black intelligence could still rise from the soil and force history to turn back and look. Number 4. Railroad telegraph. Before a train ran into disaster, the thing that needed to move faster than steel wheels was not the engine. It was the warning signal. By the late 19th century, railroads were the bloodstream of American industry, carrying people, goods, and the ambition of a nation that kept pushing farther and farther outward. But if trains did not know where other trains were, if stations sent messages too slowly, then that symbol of progress could turn into a massive machine, pushing human lives toward danger. And, right at that dangerous point, Granville Taylor Woods, a black inventor born in 1856 in Columbus, Ohio, stepped into the story of American railroads. In 1887, Woods received a patent for the synchronous multiplex railway telegraph, a railway telegraph system. In plain terms, his invention helped people know where trains were, where signals needed to go, and what information had to arrive before an accident could happen.
But the painful truth is that when America praised the railroad as a symbol of progress, it rarely gave enough attention to the people who made that system safer.
Granville Woods created technology that helped trains and stations communicate better, which meant his invention could help reduce the risk of collisions and protect passengers, railroad workers, and cargo on those moving trains. Yet in an industry dominated by large companies and white inventors, a black man like Woods had to fight for his ideas not to be dismissed, ignored, or looked down on. America needed his invention to make the railroad safer, but it took far too long to place his name where it belonged in the story of American progress. Today, when Granville T. Woods is recognized by American invention organizations as one of the important inventors in the history of railroads and telegraphy, that recognition is more than a delayed honor.
It reminds us that African American intelligence was not only in the fields, in the workshops, or behind exploited labor. It was also in the signals, in the systems, and in the technologies that helped industrial America run more safely.
For the black community, Woods was not the black version of Edison. He was Granville T. Woods, an inventor great enough to be remembered by his own name. Number 5. Traffic signal. Have you ever wondered what would happen on city streets if there were no signals to control people and vehicles moving in every direction at once? When cars began pouring into American cities, Intersections without traffic signals quickly became places of chaos, confusion, and dangerous accidents. And right in the middle of that chaos, Garrett Augustus Morgan, a black inventor and businessman born in Kentucky in 1877, created a traffic signal that helped make the streets safer. The most important part of his design was the warning stage between go and stop. Instead of forcing drivers and pedestrians to react all at once, Morgan gave people a few seconds to prepare before traffic shifted. It may sound small, but at a crowded intersection, those few seconds could keep someone from being hit, save a family from losing a loved one, and turn dangerous street chaos into something more controlled and orderly. But when that design began entering urban life, when traffic signals became something that helped millions of people cross streets more safely every day, Garrett Morgan's name did not travel with the invention in the memory of most people. He is believed to have sold the rights to his design to General Electric, and from that moment the idea of a black man moved into the machinery of big companies, big cities, and modern traffic systems, while the name of the man who created it was slowly pushed into the background. America needed Morgan's invention to make its streets safer and more civilized. But when it came time to tell the story of modern city life, history took far too long to call this black man's name. Today, every time you stop at a traffic signal, remember that it is not just some nameless light on the side of the road. In those few seconds between colors, there is a trace of Garrett Morgan, a black man who looked at the danger of the modern city and found a way to give people more time to survive. He left a piece of black intelligence inside the everyday rhythm of human life in a world where millions of people pass through intersections without knowing that their safety was helped by an African-American inventor. For the black community, Garrett Morgan is a deep source of pride, proof that our ancestors did more than survive in a country that tried again and again to make them invisible. They helped design the very systems that protect lives in that same society. Number 6. Mobile refrigeration. Have you ever thought about what would happen if meat, fruits, vegetables, medicine, or blood for hospitals could not be kept cold while traveling hundreds of miles? Before mobile refrigeration, food could spoil easily on the road, farmers could lose money, stores could lose their supply, and people far from major sources of food and medicine could struggle to get fresh goods and safe medical materials. In other words, this was not just about keeping products cooler. It was about keeping the entire supply chain of modern life from breaking apart. And right at that critical point, Frederick McKinley Jones, a black inventor born in 1893, changed the way America moved perishable goods. He developed a refrigeration system that could be mounted on trucks and other transport vehicles, helping food, medicine, and temperature-sensitive goods travel farther without being ruined along the way. During World War II, mobile refrigeration also helped transport blood, medicine, and food for the military, turning Jones's invention into a quiet but deeply important part of modern logistics. But the bitter truth is this: when refrigerated transportation became a massive part of the American economy, when companies, supermarkets, supply chains, and the medical field all benefited from that technology, Frederick McKinley Jones was still not given the place he deserved in public memory. People got used to seeing refrigerated trucks on the road. They got used to buying fresh food in stores. They got used to trusting that goods could cross state lines and still arrive safe. But far too few were taught that a black inventor helped make that reality possible. And that is why Jones deserves to be called back with pride. He did not just create a mobile refrigeration system. He helped extend the distance that life itself could be protected. For African Americans, Frederick McKinley Jones stands as proof that black intelligence was not only in the inventions people could see right in front of them. It was also inside the quiet systems keeping modern society alive and moving. Number 7. Shoe-lasting machine. In 1883, Jan Ernst Matzeliger, an inventor from Suriname working in the shoe factories of Lynn, Massachusetts, received a patent for a machine that would change the shoe industry: the shoe-lasting machine. Before that, pulling the upper part of a shoe tightly over the mold was a slow, difficult step that required skilled hands and could hold up the entire production line. Every pair of shoes meant for workers, poor families, factory laborers, or children walking the streets had to pass through that process. And Matzeliger saw the problem from inside the factory, not through distant theory, but through the lived experience of a man surrounded by leather, shoe molds, machinery, and long working days.
What makes this story so powerful is that the invention did not come from a wealthy industrial boss.
It came from a black immigrant worker, born in Suriname in 1852, the son of a woman of African descent, who entered America with very little privilege but carried a mind sharp enough to see what the entire shoe industry needed. His machine helped shoes be made faster, more evenly, and at a lower cost, helping bring an essential everyday item closer to millions of people. But as the shoe industry grew, as companies, factories, and markets benefited from what his invention made possible, Jan Matzeliger did not live long enough to fully enjoy the fruits of his work. He died of tuberculosis in 1889, still a young man. A man who helped millions of feet walk more easily ended up leaving this world before his own name was placed where it truly belonged. Today, America recognizes Jan Matzeliger as one of the important inventors in the history of shoemaking. But for African Americans, his story carries something deeper than recognition. He is a source of pride, proof that black intelligence did not only live in famous inventions written on paper. It walked quietly, with humanity, step by step, inside the shoes people wore every single day. Number 8. Home security system. Before home security became an industry, before doorbell cameras, video monitors, and remote locks became normal, a black woman in Queens was already thinking about how to protect her home. Her name was Marie Van Britten Brown, a nurse born in 1922, and in the 1960s, she understood a fear many working families knew too well. When help comes too late, a locked door may not be enough. Alongside her husband, Albert Brown, she developed a home security system that used a camera, a monitor, two-way communication, an alarm, and a remote-controlled door lock. In 1969, their patent was granted. That means a black woman helped imagine the foundation of the modern home security systems millions rely on today. But here is the bitter part. The world took the idea and built an entire industry around surveillance, safety, and smart homes, while Marie's name stayed far too quiet for far too long. Companies sold security, cities sold fear. Technology moved forward, but the black woman who saw the danger first was barely given the spotlight. For African Americans, Marie Van Britten Brown is also proof that black women were not just surviving unsafe systems. They were designing ways to protect families before the world was ready to honor them. Number 9. Elevator doors. In the 19th century, elevators were beginning to become part of modern city life, but they were nowhere near as safe as the elevators we step into today. Many systems still depended on people manually opening and closing the doors. One careless moment, one door left open, one person stepping forward too soon, and the very machine built to lift people higher could become a danger inside the building itself. That is where Alexander Miles, a black inventor and businessman, saw a problem that could not be ignored. In 1887, he received a patent for an improved elevator door mechanism, allowing the elevator cage and the shaft doors to open and close automatically together. His invention helped people step into an elevator without having to trust their safety to whether someone remembered to close a door. Today, elevator doors close in front of us so naturally that most people never even think about them. But that quiet safety is part of Alexander Miles's legacy. Cities rose higher, buildings grew taller, and millions of people moved up and down every day, while the black man who helped make that movement safer was left outside the main story for far too long. For African Americans, Miles is more than a name in an old patent record. He is proof that black intelligence also lives in the small protections we barely notice, the quiet designs that help people make it back home safely. Number 10. Super Soaker. A water gun sitting on a toy shelf may look like nothing more than summer memories, backyard laughter, wet sidewalks, and hot American afternoons. But behind the Super Soaker
is a very modern story about how black inventions can generate hundreds of millions of dollars, become part of childhood for millions of kids, and still leave the man who created it fighting for the fairness he was owed. The mind behind that invention was Lonnie Johnson, a black engineer and inventor who once worked with NASA. Through his own experiments, he came up with the idea for a water gun that was stronger, more exciting, and far different from the ordinary toys already on the market. The Super Soaker quickly became a phenomenon. Not just a best-selling toy, but a piece of popular culture. But when the profits began flowing into major companies, Johnson still had to enter a legal battle over unpaid royalties. In 2013, he was awarded nearly $73 million in a dispute with Hasbro. That number makes you stop and think. A black inventor created joy for an entire generation, yet still had to fight to be paid what his own intelligence was worth. These inventions remind us of one clear truth: modern America was not built only by the familiar names we see in textbooks. It was also built by black intelligence, by people whose names were pushed into the background, even though their work helped make the world brighter, safer, and easier to live in. If your family has ever heard stories like these, share them below. And if these buried stories deserve to be remembered, hit like, subscribe, and help us bring more hidden black history back into the light.